My name is Richard Harmel. I'm from Sierra Club, Airport Marina Group. The Ballona wetlands is a groundwater-dependent ecosystem, and its groundwater is critical for the survival of the Ballona's freshwater wetlands. We're going to be looking at a short Vimeo to be on groundwater-dependent ecosystem. It shows the danger of artificial pumping and how lowering groundwater levels causes the death of ecosystems. So as we're watching this one, when we start, I'll be running along with the descriptions as to what's happening. You see the water levels underneath. And so during normal seasonal changes, you have water coming in and the water levels, underground water levels going up. And in dry summers, the plants depend on the groundwater as their principal water source. As groundwater pumping begins, artificial groundwater pumping, it creates a lower underground level in the aquifer. It gets so low that the root systems from the habitat aren't able to get nourishment, and so they dry up and they die. Fresh groundwater is being lost. The waters to recharge the underlying aquifer are being pumped out, drained, or diverted away from Ballona, being discharged directly into Ballona Creek and then directly into the ocean or into a sanitary sewer system.
Should we allow the massive destruction and killing of species that will inevitably take place? From a restoration standpoint, Ballona wetlands is historically a coastal seasonal freshwater wetland. And the diagram that you're looking at shows those underlying aquifers that are classified legally as drinking water. This is not saltwater intrusion that you're looking at here. This is all seasonal freshwater ponding on Ballona wetlands. This is Ballona. This is what we're trying to preserve. Look at all the freshwater ponding on Ballona, and look at all this wildlife.
When I was here on Thursday, that footprint, this far footprint, there was no water in it. So the water's flowing down and coming up. This water's coming from underground, not above. This is proof positive, guys. There's fresh water galore underneath our feet. So LA Audubon, extremely focused on education, which is why I'm here, and the conservation and restoration. And then the pickleweed. This is a great spot to take the students. And I love the little round balls that they dig out. Ballona Creek, remember, from Centinela down, it's all double on.
Mr. Frankel, go ahead.
Yeah, hi, I'm Rex Frankel. I've been working to save all the Ballona wetlands and uplands since 1985. I'm the president and legal director of Baiona Ecosystem Education Project, and the spelling of my name is Rexfrankel. Of the alternatives, if number 3 eliminated the dredging of Parcel A and featured historically accurate small creeks in it, then there'd be something to talk about. As it is, no project alternative is the only one that I can endorse at this moment. My main message to you is this. Your plan simply switches the locations of the wetlands and the uplands at Baiona. This switcheroo is a huge waste of our money. Restore the Baiona wetlands where they are now. Restore the Baiona uplands where they are now. You don't need to destroy Baiona in order to save it. There are many legal deficiencies in this environmental impact report. 1, your project violates the Coastal Act because it is not a restoration, and that's all the Coastal Act allows in a wetland. 2, your project violates the U.S. Clean Water Act because it floods the wetlands with polluted street runoff with no plan to clean it up. It is illegal to degrade the water quality in federally delineated wetlands, which is what the Baiona wetlands are. 3, your project also violates the California Environmental Quality Act in that it fails to analyze or include an essential part of the project, which is the Clean Water Act mandated street runoff cleanup plan that must be implemented before you can tear down the levees and flood the wetlands with water from Ballona Creek. You have no plan to clean up 99% of the flow of Ballona Creek, which comes on rainy days. You have no EIR, you have no analysis of its impacts or whether it will ever happen. The only plan that exists is to clean up flows in the dry season, which is not when most of the pollution and trash flows down the creek. This plan will mostly dry up the creek in the dry season by pumping 3/4 of creek flows to Hyperion Sewage Treatment Plant, which will then dump it in the ocean. A waste. Then your own EIR says it will be too difficult to provide fresh water to the wetlands, so you dismiss all freshwater alternatives as, quote, mechanized or high maintenance. But that problem of lack of fresh water is created by your partners. The chair of the Santa Monica Bay Restoration Commission happens to be the Los Angeles City Sanitation Department, who, along with the LA County Flood Control District, are doing the mechanically drying out Ballona Creek during most of the year. So you dismiss reasonable alternatives by using a straw man argument. You can fix all these legal violations this way. Give us a historically accurate project, thus it will fit the definition of restoration and comply with the Coastal Act. 2, don't flood our wetlands with polluted, cruddy Ballona Creek stormwater, which may never be cleaned up. Instead, pipe the clean flows during the dry season from the new Ballona Creek Dry Season Treatment Plant, which is being constructed in Culver City, to restore the historical freshwater marshes of the Baiona wetlands. Because you won't be flooding the wetlands with pollution, you won't violate the U.S. Clean Water Act. Because upstream polluted stormwater will not flow into the Baiona wetlands, an upstream rainy season creek water cleanup plan is not an essential part of your project. Thus, you will then not violate CEQA by deferring analysis of what is no longer an essential part of your project. Finally, by leaving most of the land at Baiona where it is, leaving the wetlands where they are now, leaving the uplands where they are now, you will avoid destroying 1,000-year-old archaeological sites or desecrating graves, as the Playa Vista developer discovered on their Discovery Park. What an ironic name. You will avoid evicting the wildlife while engineering firms and their friends heal their wallets at our expense. Listen to the groups who saved over 600 acres when others were willing to let it be paved. This current plan is not bringing back Baiona. Let's actually restore Baiona, not turn it into something it never was. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Tribal leader John Tommy Rosas is about to establish for you that Baiona is historically a seasonal, predominantly freshwater wetland.
Hi, this is John Tommy Wilson. In 1923, and actually before, about 1906 to 1909, and then 1920, they had various lawsuits and cases, so this got realigned and different things happened, but on this USGS map, what's important is the federal government determined that the channel should run and stop here, and this is their mark there for fresh water that comes down is let go into the freshwater wetlands that was already existing. It just did not go through like it does now into the marina. See, now it goes, and then the high and low tides come up it. Before, see the difference right here? Right at area A, right here, you can see that creek line. And so the original Ballona Creek was here, then they channeled it, but they still dumped the fresh water here. They did not mix it or inundate this with more salt water like they want to do in alternative 1, 2, and 3. This is about fresh water. This is all fresh water. And then you can also see the saltwater little channels that were here for the estuary. So really the estuary, which is a salt and freshwater mix, is in this area, way down here. So this shows that it was existing, and that the Army Corps, in their graphic, in their map, and their design and everything to dump the water right here was for fresh water. So that's why in my graphic I'm saying 1923 USGS shows freshwater wetlands. This is still really actually a creek, even though it was channelized. It did not go to the ocean like I explained. Here's area A. So they want to rip all this out and then have that be saltwater treated, and it was never like that. And what's important about this video and what I'm explaining is that it shows that this was fresh water before, but it was made purposely fresh water restored again by the freshwater restoration of the channel. So they can't say that they're restoring anything. If they're going to restore it, it should be to this alignment and this source of water, which we can get from Playa Vista's freshwater here. In the EIS, we have to go for the freshwater alternative.
I would just like to speak today. I'm Margot Griswold, a restoration ecologist with over 25 years experience in Southern California and throughout California. I've worked on the West Bluffs project, designed and oversaw implementation on the restoration of the bluffs. And before that, worked on some aspects of water, fresh water, in regard to McGuire Thomas, the previous developer of the Playa Vista area. So I have some knowledge of the area, and I would just like to say that I am dismayed that in the alternatives for the project, that no alternate to the 3 full tidal wetlands was offered. So first of all, it's a violation of CEQA.
Now this set of pictures is really important because it takes, and it's by Tony Orm and Palacios Fest is the last name. I think the paper's 2003 or something like that. Upper left, 7,000 years before present. And you go 2,000 years, 5,000 years before present, 4,000, 3,000, 2,000, 1,200. Okay? And so what you see is this slow filling in of the Ballona Bay, essentially, over time. And back there, that's inherited space probably, but slowly it fills in with these sediments. And you can see about 3,000 to 4,000 years ago, it basically turns into hydraulic space because there is this spit that goes across and closes it in, sort of like what Morro Bay almost looks like. Right? So it's gone through that phase. And this here is a hydraulically defined opening. If you wanted to go something that was open to the ocean and fully tidal all the time, you'd need to go back about 4,000 years. So, our model predicts frequent closure. It's terraced, but part of a prorating system. Large size, okay, if you include the elevator, it's large size. If you don't, it's a little bit smaller. High exposure hydraulic system. And this is our generalized model for that. Some of the time it should be perched. Most of the time it should be closed. And when it does open, it opens real good down to the low, in the low tide area, the low intertidal.